I knew that there were some unknown links between Kantor and Norwich, because as it happened, Kantor's very close collaborator, Mariusz Tadeusz, he was a young art critic and he was one of the founders of the Vauxhall Gallery, where Kantor staged his most important exhibitions from this period, and also some of his happenings. After he had left Poland in 1970s, he moved into England and he settled eventually in Norwich. Although Kantor lived in Kraków, he would travel very often to Warsaw, and he staged various exhibitions, and most importantly, he staged several happenings.
Kantor had got the proposition to go to Florence to create his new performance. But he knew that after that he will not have any place to come back in Krakow. And suddenly the city just woke up and said, oh, Kantor is going away, maybe we should give him something, some place. And so they give him Kanonica. And he created Krikoteka, which is not a theater, not a bureau, or not a museum. He wanted that it would be a combination of the archive, museum, gallery, Institute of Art. And it was also a rehearsal space, because at the end he didn't have the stage, the normal theater, etc.
So we were very lucky that we could invite quite a number of important people who worked with Kantor in Britain, including Richard de Marco, who had invited Kantor for the first time to Britain. So when Mariusz Korek settled in Norwich, he was the one who translated the script of Kantor's spectacle called Wielopole, Wielopole, which was shown in London. He translated that into English. When he was translating Wielopole, Wielopole into English, he got in touch with a lecturer at the University of East Anglia in Norwich, whose name is George Hyde, and they did this translation together. It was published in 1990, just before Kantor's death.
After his death, Krikoteka changed the name for Center of Documentation of the Art of Tadeusz Kantor, and we now works not only about theater of Kantor, but also about his art. We have 4 seats in Krakow, but still we don't have such a space like you have here. I do hope that we'll finish this building in which we'll have a space for exhibitions, temporary exhibitions and permanent exhibition. And then that we'll have a theatrical space also for actors of Kantor, which are running workshops, working with young people about theater.
This exhibition introduced Kantor to the new audience that hardly know anything about him, especially a new generation, because of course the knowledge about Kantor of this generation are, gently speaking, limited.
Some people have heard of Tadeusz Kantor, many people haven't. But for those that have, as Jo's archival display, and I think she'll talk about that, this idea that many of the people who experienced his work have gone on to have an enormous impact on the cultural scene here today.
But also when I asked some British art critics what was the changing point in their understanding of Polish art, many of them mentioned Tadeusz Kantor's performances at the Riverside Studios in the 70s.
I had a lot of conversations with David Goddard, and David arranged for the performances of Dead Class to be shown in the new Riverside Studios, which is here in these photos.
For somebody of my generation, it's the most amazing thing to be able to offer the public, because of course we can remember the incredible impact that Kantor's work had here in the 70s and the 80s. For younger people, it's exciting because actually it shows the level of happenings that were, that were taking place in the 70s and 80s, of an extraordinary impact and incredibly radical and really difficult and fascinating stuff.
And also the Dead Class obviously will ring a lot of bells for people. These people in old age going back to their school, and they're dragging these dummies, and you have this image of people carrying these memories of school and reliving them. And there's also his fantastic panoramic sea happening with him standing on a chair conducting the waves and artists sitting as the audience next to him.
I remember saying to you, what would happen if you brought together the archive, the objects, the films, the pictures, and placed them in such a way that, at that point, in an underground space. I mean, preferably dank and dark rather than absolutely beautiful. But then realising that Kantor didn't actually want his work to be in dank, dark cellars. They wanted it to be in gallery spaces.
And so what you'll see here are recreations of some of his theatre sets, some of his installation pieces, a fascinating collection of archival material, ephemera, bits of paper, programmes, photographs, things of that sort, which actually talk about not only what he did in Poland, but did over here in England. So he's an amazing guy, and as I said, for people of my generation, it's very exciting, and for young people, come and see him.